Most people think budgeting means restricting everything they enjoy. But a useful budget is not a punishment. It is a simple system for seeing where your money goes, making better decisions, and reducing surprise. In this video, we will use one simple example, building a first monthly budget from one paycheck. The goal is not to give personal financial advice. The goal is to understand the basic stages of budgeting. We will move through 6 stages. Knowing your real income, tracking spending, separating needs from wants and goals, building a monthly plan, preparing for irregular expenses, and reviewing the system. Here is the roadmap. First, you need to know your real income. Then you track where money actually goes. After that, you separate needs, wants, and goals so the budget is not just a random list. Then the system becomes practical. You build a monthly plan, prepare for expenses that do not happen every month, and review the plan so it improves instead of breaking after one mistake. Stage 1 is knowing your real income. Beginners often start with the number they wish they had or the salary number before deductions. A budget should start with the money that actually arrives and can actually be used. In our example, the person receives one paycheck and wants to build a monthly budget. Before planning food, bills, savings, or subscriptions, they need to know the actual take-home amount. This stage matters because every later decision depends on the starting number. If the income number is wrong, the whole budget becomes too optimistic before the first expense is even listed. Once the real income is clear, the next question is uncomfortable but necessary. Where is the money already going? Stage 2 is tracking spending. This does not mean judging every purchase. It means observing reality before trying to control it. A budget built on guesses usually fails quickly. For the first monthly budget, the person looks at rent, food, transport, subscriptions, small purchases, and unexpected fees. The goal is to see patterns that were previously invisible. The beginner mistake is thinking tracking is only for people who are bad with money. In reality, tracking is just feedback. Even a good plan needs feedback to know whether it matches real behavior. This stage matters because hidden spending creates fake confidence. Someone may feel organized while their subscriptions, convenience purchases, and small repeated expenses quietly erase their plan. After spending is visible, the next stage is not cutting everything. The next stage is separating different kinds of spending so decisions become clearer. Stage 3 is separating needs, wants, and goals. Needs are the basics required to keep life functioning. Wants are flexible choices. Goals are future priorities, like building a cushion or saving for something specific. This is not about judging a person's life. It is about giving each dollar a clearer job before it disappears. In the paycheck example, rent and basic groceries may be needs. Streaming services and eating out may be wants. An emergency fund or a course fee may be goals. The exact categories can differ by person. What matters is that the person can see the difference between survival costs, lifestyle choices, and future priorities. The common mistake is treating every want as bad. A realistic budget does not need to remove all enjoyment. It needs to show the trade-off between today's choices and tomorrow's priorities. This stage matters because unclear categories make every decision emotional. When the categories are clear, the question changes from, "Can I spend this?" to "What does this spending replace?" That shift is important because budgeting is mostly about trade-offs, not about finding one perfect rule. Once the categories are clear, the next step is building a monthly plan that can survive real life instead of only looking good on paper. Stage 4 is building a simple monthly plan. A beginner budget should not be complicated. It should tell the money where to go before the month disappears, while still leaving room for normal life. A useful plan is simple enough to check during a busy week, not only when someone has time to manage a spreadsheet. The person might assign money to housing, food, transport, bills, savings, and flexible spending. The point is not to create a perfect spreadsheet. The point is to make the next decision easier. If flexible spending is already planned, a small purchase becomes a choice inside a boundary instead of a source of guilt. Beginners often fail because they make a budget that only works in an imaginary perfect month. Real months have birthdays, repairs, price changes, late plans, and small surprises. A beginner budget should expect some messiness, because a plan that breaks immediately is too fragile to teach anything. This stage matters because a simple plan creates boundaries. Without boundaries, every purchase competes with every other purchase, and decisions become stressful again. But even a good monthly plan can fail if it only includes expenses that happen every month. The next stage is preparing for irregular costs. Stage 5 is preparing for irregular expenses. These are costs that do not appear every month but still arrive eventually. They can make a normal month feel like a financial emergency. The goal is not to predict every exact amount. The goal is to remember that the future will ask for money too. Examples include annual subscriptions, gifts, school costs, repairs, medical visits, travel, seasonal bills, or replacing something that breaks. They may not be exact, but they are not completely random. Even setting aside a small category for these costs can make the budget feel less shocked when they arrive. The beginner mistake is calling every irregular cost an emergency. Some events are true emergencies, but many are predictable categories that were simply not given a place in the plan. This stage matters because a budget that ignores irregular expenses looks stronger than it really is. It works until the first non-monthly cost arrives and destroys the illusion. Many people think they failed, when the real problem is that the budget forgot a normal part of life. Once irregular costs have a place, the final stage is learning how to review the budget without quitting when one month goes wrong. Stage 6 is review and adjustment. A budget is not a document you create once. It is a feedback loop. You compare the plan to reality and make the next month more accurate. This review can be simple. What was planned, what happened, and what should change next time? At the end of the month, the person checks what worked. Maybe food spending was higher than expected. Maybe a subscription was forgotten. Maybe the savings goal was too aggressive for the first month. The review does not need blame. It needs useful information that makes the next plan easier to follow. The common misunderstanding is thinking a failed month means the budget failed. Usually it means the budget learned something. The next version can be simpler, more realistic, and easier to follow. This stage matters because consistency comes from adjustment, not perfection. A person who reviews calmly can improve the system without needing motivation every single day. Over time, the budget becomes less like a rulebook and more like a dashboard for decisions. So the goal is not to build a perfect budget. The goal is to build a system that gets clearer every month. Here is the full budgeting roadmap. Know your real income. Track where money goes. Separate needs, wants, and goals. Build a simple monthly plan. Prepare for irregular expenses. Then review and adjust. If you are a beginner, do not start with a complicated system. Start with one paycheck, 1 month, and one honest review. The first goal is not perfection. The first goal is visibility. This video is general education, not personal financial advice. But the basic idea is simple. When you can see your money clearly, you can make decisions with less panic and more control.